This is an Extra 106.3 podcast. To hear more live and local content like this, tune into 106.3 FM or download the Extra 106.3 app. Extra 106.3 and a Second Chance Bail Bonds are proud to bring you Justice Unfiltered. Real conversations with real people from every side of the justice system. From the latest in law and order to the voices of those impacted, changed, and working to make a difference. This is where truth meets transformation. Now, it's time for Justice Unfiltered, presented by a Second Chance Bail Bonds on Atlanta's only conservative news and talk station, Extra 106.3 FM and the Extra 106.3 app.
Welcome to Justice Unfiltered on Extra 106.3 with Daniel Madelon of a Second Chance Bail Bonds and a Second Chance Monitoring. Daniel, what's up, man? How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. It's good to get you in here, man, because I know you've been doing all kinds of traveling.
Yep.
Been busy and taking care of the kids and running back and forth, getting a daughter ready to go to college.
Trying to. Yeah.
Huge experience.
Yeah,
Goodness.
First time doing that, so
Yeah.
we're learning as we go. But.
No, I'm telling you, it is a that is one that I'm still not sure. My son's going to be a senior in college this year, and I'm still not sure how to do it. But we got a great guest in for Justice Unfiltered here this morning, Dr. Kareem Puranda. Dr. Kareem Puranda. Did you get that pickup? Dr. Kareem Puranda. He is a licensed clinical medical health counselor, supervisor, licensed clinical addiction specialist, transformational speaker, author, and former law enforcement officer, turned mental health counselor. Dr. Puranda, how did all this start? Where did all this begin? Can we go back to the beginning? Because I want people to understand who you are, what you're about, and what you're doing now.
Absolutely. So I'm just a guy who was recruited to play football in the South back in the day from Bronx, New York.
Where were you going to play football?
At a HBCU.
Okay.
I call it the Harvard of the South, Livingstone College.
Yeah.
In Salisbury, North Carolina. And we actually won a championship, the Division II championship that year in the CIAA.
That's awesome.
And really, really enjoyed football. Ended up joining the law enforcement academy in 2002 when I graduated, and became a police officer with the Salisbury Police Department for 8 years. And then I transitioned out into clinical mental health.
Goodness. In 2017, you founded the Self-Talk Counseling and Consulting in North Carolina and Charlotte, where you work, what you call it on both people on both sides of the law, ranging from police officers to first responders, first-time offenders, at-risk youth, licensed clinical mental health counselor supervisor. Man, that's a big title.
Yeah, I guess.
What? That's a mouthful. What does that even mean?
Yeah, what does it mean, right? So, in a nutshell, I'm an entrepreneur, and I decided to go into business working for myself to create meaningful impact and change in the communities that need it the most, primarily people who suffer in silence. I like to say I work with people on both sides of the law. You got people who are not only in law enforcement, but people who are also raised in communities that are predisposed to poverty and high violence and high crime. And those are the folks that I love working with, because typically those are the ones that don't ask for help or don't know how to ask for help.
Yeah, we've learned that, Daniel, on this show, is there's so many people that don't have any idea where to go. I mean, we've talked about it. I don't know. We've been doing this show, 2 years now?
Yeah.
At least somewhere in there,
yeah.
And there's so many people that just have no idea where to go.
Yeah, where to get the resources.
And Dr. Puranda is a great place, a great resource for those folks.
Yeah, no question. One of the things I have is that I think is my advantage is lived experiences. I come from an environment in the Bronx that was underserved, high poverty, high crime. I grew up in the 80s. Crack was at its highest peak in the 80s, a lot of violence. Witnessed a lot of trauma that I didn't know or understand to be trauma. And a lot of times when you go through trauma or traumatic experience, if you're raised in a dysfunctional family, whatever it might be, those behavioral patterns become normal. And you don't know to call it or label it as a problem until it creates problems in your life. And then you now have to do an introspective look at, how did I end up here? Or how did I end up in this predicament that I really didn't plan for?
Yeah, goodness, man. Oh, which is your everyday, right, Daniel?
That would be every day, yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. Dr. Puranda is also an author of Breaking the Code of Silence, a cop's journey from triumph and truth, and creator of the Patrolling Your Purpose framework. Through his speaking and training and work, he helps officers, leaders, and everyday people understand that emotional cost of survival mode. and their way back to who they really are. Because it was like fight or flight, right? You're just trying to figure out, hey man, what do I do when things have all fallen down beside me?
Without a shadow of a doubt, the second chance concept, right? It's how do you rebuild after a trial and error? I look at the second chance as an opportunity you create for yourself as a result of learning from what you didn't know prior to making a decision. A lot of people, when I work with these kids who come from underserved communities or who are justice served, or even people who have been incarcerated now coming home trying to make a way or a change for their life, I always ask them, did you make a choice or a mistake? And a lot of people say, I made a mistake. And a lot of times a mistake is merely a choice that didn't work out the way you thought it was going to work out. And now what did you learn from it? And I educate people with a framework or things or tools that can help them build their self-awareness so they can manage their lives and their careers more effectively.
No, it's so smart, and it's good to have, I would imagine, good to have somebody like you in the corner of people that have just felt like they've run out of places to go. Yeah. Just having somebody, a resource, Daniel, that you can ask questions to. And I would imagine you probably get some of those things from families and people that you work with the same chance.
Just we try to give people as many resources as possible. And look, you never know, that one conversation may break the cycle, that one person that gets in contact with them. So, stuff like this is really cool.
No, it's great. Was there one single moment that you go, I've got to change things. I've got to go from serving in the community, wearing a badge, to counseling?
I would tell you that the moment for me was a divine intervention. It was when I was sitting in a jail cell. And the jail cell came after an indictment that led to the state believing that they had enough to charge me and with using excessive force while under the color of law. And I think that started my trajectory into clinical mental health. My goal was to retire as a chief one day. I spent 8 years in law enforcement, assuming that I was doing a good job under the culture of law enforcement, the training that I received, rub some dirt on the wounds, we don't ask for help type of deal.
Sure.
And I didn't manage my mental health properly, and it led to that jail cell. And in that jail cell, I stood there for several hours with nothing but time to think about, how did my career end like this? And I discovered that I was operating according to an ego. And this is not the ego associated with I'm too sexy for my shirt. It's the ego that's associated with...
Got to be some of that in there, though, right?
Yeah, well, you know what? You develop your body. Sometimes, getting on the weight pile is ego-driven too, right? So, but it was more so associated with making sure that I protected myself from the things that I felt unsafe about.
Sure.
And AKA vulnerabilities, right?
Which every human has.
1,000%. But we don't claim them.
Yeah, you're not going to tell somebody, where you're not going to give anybody your Achilles heel.
You get it, exactly. And so you dress yourself up. People ask you, hey, you good? Yeah, I'm good.
Of course.
You dismiss people. You
Especially
deflect.
dudes, man.
1,000%. 1,000%.
We're the worst.
We are. Like, I agree.
We won't even stop and ask for directions. We be lost. Yeah,
we'll
I got it, baby.
We'll figure it out.
I got it, baby. We're good. We're good. Yeah.
Right.
If you can't ask for directions, you definitely can't ask for help.
Bingo.
When it's something bigger.
Bingo.
And you've got to show that vulnerability.
You got it, man. And so what I've learned to do from my experience is to be totally vulnerable, totally transparent, because one of the things I recognize that people struggle with in life when they lead to trial and error, it's because they never had a model or an example of how to do something. And if I can be an example in my little corner of the world to people and show them that it's okay to ask for help and there's no penalty other than freedom associated with it, then my job is well done.
Put your ego down, man.
Bingo.
Just put it down. Even if it's just for now.
Yeah.
In this moment, put your ego down, put it away, and get the help that you clearly need. And I'm sure you recognize it from a mile away.
1,000%. It's easy to read through those behavioral patterns.
Because you've been there.
Exactly.
Seen them a million times.
Yeah, 1,000%. And here's the thing. The trick though about the ego is that it kept you safe once upon a time. So you had no reason to believe that it would fail you until later on it puts you in a prison of your own doing, and you don't realize it until the outcomes start to now backfire against you. Yeah, such as what I went through in the jail cell.
It sounds like, I don't know if this is a good analogy or not, but it sounds like a little bit of a Swiss Army knife, right?
Yeah.
You can use it effectively in certain situations, but then you're going to have to put that away and use a different tool to combat whatever else it is you're against or going against you. Yeah, man, it's a fascinating story. It's a fascinating conversation, and I'm glad we're having it. Was there a point, and I assume that most people think that police officers and counselors are coming from completely different directions. What did policing tell you that made you better at what you're doing now?
The ability to read people. When I was in law enforcement, I spent a little time as an investigator. Conducted interviews with suspects and people who were involved in various crimes, and being able to read the nonverbals, can tell when someone's being deceitful. You know, which way normalizing them, seeing how they look up or look to the left or to the right, and all those different things.
We do that with children all the time.
Yeah.
I knew when my son was lying.
Yeah.
There was no doubt.
Right.
He came in the house and he's like, "No, I didn't do it." Yes, you did.
Exactly.
I know you did it.
Right.
And then there was, at least for me, Doctor, I would try to put my son in a position when he was a little guy to come clean. I knew it. He knew I knew it. So I would give him the opportunity to be like, hey, we both know what's happening here. If you're honest about it, let's work through it. If you're not, then we're going to have the obstacle of we got to get to the truth. And then what's the repercussion?
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's always the easiest is, dude, honesty is the best policy. And I know it sounds so cliche, but as a believer, I believe that is the truth. Honesty is the best policy. And people naturally gravitate toward honesty. They always have it because it's ingrained. It's who we are.
Yeah. And the truth doesn't change.
It doesn't.
You don't have to keep up with the lies that
That's
you're
right.
spinning, right?
Absolutely.
That's right.
That's exactly right. 100% correct. Gosh, it's such a great conversation. Dr. Kareem Puranda here on Extra 106.3. When we come back, as a therapist, what surprises you most about people when they come in? What's the biggest surprises that maybe you've encountered on the job? We'll talk about that next here on Justice Unfiltered with Daniel Madelon, CEO of A Second Chance Bail Bonds and A Second Chance Monitoring, and our guest, Dr. Kareem Puranda, on Extra 106.3.
This is Justice Unfiltered, presented by A Second Chance Bail Bonds on Extra 106.3 FM and the Extra app.
Welcome back to Justice Unfiltered on Extra 106.3. Unpacking justice, one conversation at a time. Daniel Madelon is the reason we do this show here on Extra. It is a blessing to have him and to get into all the different discussions from all over the place. Today is a special one with Dr. Kareem Puranda, who has been a police officer, now is and I'm going to take me a minute to get this title right because it's gigantic. Licensed clinical mental health counselor, transformational speaker, an author, a former law enforcement officer, and licensed clinical medical health counselor supervisor. I got it all right. I'm surprised, but let me tell you.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting. I figured I was going to stumble around on that one.
It's a lot.
It is, but good work being done because of your past experience, doctor, and then what you're able to do and how you're able to help people now. Daniel, not very different than the way you do. I mean, people come to you in a moment of need, and you're able to.
Yeah, it's a crisis moment for sure.
To give them
some more than
chance.
others.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, absolutely. That's why I love what Dr. Puranda is doing is amazing because there's such a big need for it in the community.
Yeah.
For somebody that only knows you as a therapist now, what would surprise them most about the job that you do?
The job that I do today, well, I would tell you that I help people recognize or become more competent about who they are. A lot of people come to me because they don't know who they are. They're not where they want to be in life, and they don't know how to do that thing. They're in a predicament, but they don't know how to get themselves out of it. And what I do really masterfully is I help people recognize how the beliefs that they're operating according to is either working for them or against them. And then once you recognize that it's working against you, you got to pivot. You got to change. You're either going to start something or you got to stop something. And that's the key to creating change. It doesn't always feel good. Easier said than done, but it's definitely doable.
Yeah. How do you convince them, though? Because they've spent a lifetime of doing things their way.
Spot on. I've got some methodologies that are pretty creative, and it's not a torture methodology. Right?
Yeah, I'm scared to ask, actually, like, what are these methods?
I'm about to introduce you to microphone 1 and microphone 2.
Right, yeah. There's definitely several versions if I had to guess.
It's quite more or less painful than that, right?
Good news.
But change, I get people comfortable with the idea that they have to become comfortable with the uncomfortable. And a lot of times people are imprisoned by their own ideologies, and they don't realize it, that the beliefs that they've been using to get to this particular point in life are in fact the beliefs that are setting them up to fail. And so it's this trust component, right? In a clinical mental health space, you want to create an alliance where you build rapport, you build safety for people to feel vulnerable. Most people are afraid of shame. They're afraid of being embarrassed. They're afraid of being exposed. And as long as they understand that there's a space here where they can come and be naked and unashamed, metaphorically, they will let down their hair and let you know what's inside those can of worms that they've been sitting on their entire life.
Trust is so hard to develop, and it's so easy to lose.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're a parent. Doesn't matter if you're a law enforcement officer, a lawyer, a radio host, whatever it is. People are willing, usually I feel like people are willing to give you the benefit of the doubt, but the minute you lose that trust, earning that back is so challenging.
No question.
But once you have earned that trust, then I can only imagine, you see it all the time, then it's a balancing act of how honest can I be with this person because I don't want to damage that trust.
Yeah. Absolutely. Sometimes, and in some cases, depending upon the client, right? When I read clients, I look at, aspects that they present to know how to connect with them, right? I can't use one modality to work with all clients. Everybody's different. Sometimes it might require a little bit of transparency. Sometimes I might need to expose a little bit about my past just to get them comfortable in knowing that this is a safe space. I mimic their language, whatever language they use. Sometimes in a session, I may not even always dress up with a shirt and tie. I'll dress down in a casual wear so that they'll feel comfortable and not have this power differential.
Relatability, man.
Bingo.
It's relatability. And that's what everybody's looking for in life. Everybody just wants to know that person can relate to me.
Bingo.
And once I feel like, and I'm no doctor by any means, but I feel like once you're relatable on something, and it doesn't matter what it is, it could be sports, it could be, hey, I got kids,
that's it. Whatever
it is that you can find from the person, whomever you're talking to, hey, what is it that I can connect on? Yeah. That's that kernel of trust, or that where the relationship,
commonality.
Yeah, the commonality. But that's where all of the relationship and all the trust begins, and that's where it builds from.
Bingo. A lot of people have been misunderstood for quite some time, which caused them to go into the shell or have these beliefs that they've created. And when they finally connect with someone who understands, it's like a breath of fresh air.
Like a little bit of a code, I'm hearing.
No, it is.
A little bit of code, because in your book's called Breaking the Code of Silence. What is the code, and why is it so hard, especially for officers, to break?
Yeah, no question. Breaking the Code of Silence, a cop's journey to triumph in truth. Here's the thing, right? And this is like an unwritten rule. It's the idea of misrepresenting a lie as a truth. The goal is for you to subscribe to a lie and misrepresent it as a truth. It's like if there was a pink elephant in this room, we all see it, but no one's talking about it or no one is acknowledging it. That's the code. Act like it doesn't exist. And that behavioral pattern, which is induced in the academy, then it follows an officer throughout their career through the agency. It's a culture where you have the right to remain silent, because if you say anything that's concerning your mental health, it might cause you to lose your badge and your status and your identity, if law enforcement is your identity.
And most people's work is their identity.
Bingo. And so that code, it's a subscription to a lie and misrepresenting it as a truth. It's like if there's a pile of manure in here, right? And we come in like, hey.
What is that?
Oh, man. Now, listen. now follow that statement with, is that the new cologne? Is that the new fragrance?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
We're not supposed to acknowledge that it stinks.
You're stepping all the way around.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to act like this is the new fragrance. We enjoy it. We're smiling. We're enjoying the conversations while we're in here, right? That's the code, to act like crap doesn't stink. Mm-hmm. And that's what causes the silent suffering that officers are experiencing, which up to the point of it's causing officers to now complete suicide, domestic violence, drive while intoxicated, use of force experience, excessive use of force encounters, discourteous complaints. All these things are a byproduct of that suppression.
Gosh, and it feels like that people ignore the truth, because especially as an officer, and you can speak to this having been a police officer before, that usually people are coming to you. As an officer, I need help.
Yeah.
Something has gone wrong.
That's correct.
And I would imagine military members, I don't know if you work with military members, but I bet you do. military members have always been the one that rush in. Firefighters, they always rush in. When people call, they're who you call. So who do they call?
Bingo.
And oftentimes they're like, I can't be brave enough.
So how do you break that cycle in policing? How do you do that?
Again, remember what I said earlier, right? It's about modeling. If your management or your leadership isn't progressive in terms of seeking mental health support, it's not safe. I did a study when I conducted my dissertation. What factors prevent law enforcement officers from seeking help whenever they start to feel distress? And each one of my the people that I interviewed, all 12 of them said it was their administration. They were afraid of how their administration would view them and how it would mess around and take their badge. And that's why they did not come forward with their challenges. And so if the leadership is not pro mental health support, then the folks that are working on the front lines are not going to feel safe to do it. I look at it from a lens of, right, I have this framework where I talk about how most, not all, but quite a few law enforcement agencies model the hierarchy of a dysfunctional family, where you might have the person at the head that might be the dysfunctional one, and then everybody around it is the enabler in that cabinet, and then the people at the bottom sort of kind of see this stuff and they take on the role of the attributes of the children, which might be a scapegoat, a hero child, and some of these other characteristics, just for the sake of preserving their career or playing it safe, if you will. And it's toxic at the end of the day, and it perpetuates the complications that we see showing up on a reoccurring basis.
I can only imagine. And now people are talking about, burnout, the trauma that law enforcement officers, military, firefighters, EMS, whatever, they all experience at some point.
Yes.
Maybe they experience it as a child or a teenager or a young adult, or maybe they experience it at work, whatever it is. But people are talking about it more than they used to. Do you feel like things are changing there? Do you think in a positive way, or no? Is it just look that way?
I think things are changing for the positive. It just depends upon the context and who's looking at it, right? I'll tell you that, because every agency is not the same. I would say that there is some progress being made because at least we're having discussions about it.
Sure.
Once upon a time, there was no talk whatsoever. But we can't ignore the elephant now when we got, within the last decade, over 1,200 people have completed suicide within law enforcement. So we can't ignore that pink elephant in the room, right? And so now people are having conversations around it. I don't think most of these folks in law enforcement understand the human developmental aspect that come with all the people that choose to do this work. And I think within about 10 years, the officer who's currently 10 years in the profession right now, today, is eventually going to become a supervisor, because a lot of the guys that are in management now were here 20, going on 30 years ago when it was not safe to talk about your challenges. But
Right.
This new generation of officers are being exposed to talking about the challenges, which makes me assume that within about 10 to 15 years, they're going to take over the leadership and they're going to be more progressive in terms of how we deal with mental health in law enforcement.
Our guest is Dr. Puranda, and when you talk about officers that are, they're reluctant right now, they're still a little bit reluctant to ask for help. Let's say somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, man, I need some help, but I'm afraid of what's going to happen with my supervisors. I'm afraid what's going to happen at the precinct or at the sheriff's office, wherever they are." How do you walk them through that?
Yeah. Seeking support for your mental health if you're a first responder, depending upon the agency, you have to be strategic. That's just a legitimate concern. You have to be strategic. I would recommend that individual to either connect with a therapist through private pay, meaning that they don't go through their insurance company, because some agencies have it set up where they have access to your medical records. I would encourage that officer to also connect with an outside peer support group. There are a ton of them popping up now that are independent from any agency. Most officers usually shy away from their agency peer support because the officers that make up that peer support team can't be trusted, because sometimes some agencies are like middle schools on steroids. Gossip, relationships, and all this other crazy stuff.
It's the human condition.
Yeah, that part,
It
right?
starts as kids and it continues until until you're done.
Exactly. So it's not always safe for an officer to go to their agency peer support for help. So there's a lot of different resources out here. I would also encourage officers, especially if they're new, to connect with the associations like the FOP, Fraternal Order of Police, NOBLE, National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives, the National Sheriff's Association. There's a lot of associations out here that they can connect with that will also connect them to outside resources.
Yeah,
as well.
we've had the folks from Noble on the show, and they do great work. You work with officers and people who have been arrested. What do those two have in common that most people wouldn't expect?
They're both in survival mode. Both of them have been impacted by trauma, unique to each officer's individual experiences. Sometimes the trauma is from childhood. I have a lot of officers who have been impacted by, a dysfunctional family, abandonment, abuse of all kinds. So have people who have made the decision to sometimes violate the law. And then these two people come in contact with each other, and then there you have a cocktail that could easily erupt into something that was preventable, if you will.
Yeah, Daniel, I know you run into this
that
same
normally
kind of
does blow up the cocktail.
Yeah, holy smokes. Well, but just families in crisis too, because I bet you deal.
Oh yeah.
I bet you have to deal with or have to help.
Yeah.
Whether it's somebody that has broken the law or someone who's enforcing the law, when they're in their time of need, helping their family because that's their safety net, if you will. So being able to either educate them or help them understand what's happening, what's that process like?
And it's unique to each situation, right, depending upon what's taking place. But you're spot on. A community is so important for someone to have because the community creates the kind of strength, hope, resilience that the person may not have. I like this term, this idea of borrowed belief. Shout out to Jessica Lundy. Having a borrowed belief from someone else. If I don't feel like I can do it, but if you believe in me, I think I can. And it's this idea of borrowing from your community the love, the care, the attention, the hope that you may lack because of an emotional wound that renders you incapable of having that kind of optimism.
And what do we tell kids when they're little? When you're trying to tell them, yeah, you can tie your shoe. Yeah, you can catch a ball. Yeah, you can run fast. I believe in you.
Yeah, that part.
You can do it. I believe that you can do it.
Yeah.
It's so foundational, at least when I hear you say it and knowing that's what you do.
Yeah.
When you say that, it makes perfect sense to me. Dan, you got a daughter that rides horses. The first time, I bet she was pretty nervous, and I guarantee you were like, you can do that? I know you can. Yeah. I've seen you do it. I know you can do anything you put your mind to.
Yep. Right.
And it goes back to the foundational stuff that
100%.
we do. How though? What if the family isn't there? What if for the officer or someone that's been in trouble? Do you direct them to community groups? Do you direct them to church? How does that work? Because that'd be my first man. We got to get you to church.
Yeah, there's always a community available to you, right? And church is definitely ideal. Some people, again, you got so many different rationales or ideologies around affirming hope for a person, right? And it's this idea that, if I'm going through a situation where I cannot control the outcome, then yes, that's when I now call upon the higher power of my understanding to help me through this.
Sure.
Or resources, people who I believe in, people who I believe could help me. I now lean into them with the hope that they'll be there for me in this time of need. But it's never a simple fix. It's not always easy because we're dealing with people's beliefs. And again, like I said earlier, the beliefs will either set you up to win or set you up to fail, depending upon how they're constructed. Some people have limiting beliefs and some people have faulty beliefs. And these are the things that trip them up later on in life.
Yeah, I can see that. And especially when it's negative.
Mm-hmm.
Like people that have a good, healthy self-worth,
Yeah.
they probably, I bet you don't run into, I'm not saying it never happens, but it's probably less. You probably run into people who have a strong self-worth, whether they got it through, being raised by parents or grandparents or whomever, or they get it through work, but they've developed that healthy view of themselves. I would imagine that is less than people who are really like, I don't know if I believe in me. Yeah. I've never had anybody say, you can do it.
Yeah. There's a common theme I've seen, especially with the youth that we work with under through Achieving Success on Purpose, the nonprofit. A lot of these kids, a parent or a guardian may bring them in and say, hey, they're so disrespectful. They don't care about their schoolwork. They don't care about their parents and all that stuff. And they don't realize that most of us, when we're growing up, we're looking for someone to model. And if all that has been modeled in my environment is disrespect towards me, every time I come up with an idea, I'm being dismissed, I'm being overlooked, I'm being told to shut up, sit down, whatever it might be. That's disrespect. And then after a while, especially around middle school or high school, early high school, that's when you start seeing that child mimicking what was done to them. and now they don't care. They're disrespectful. They're insubordinate. They're oppositional, defiant, and all these things because they've been mistreated or mishandled the entire time, and now they're tired of it. And this is the best way. They believe that this is the way that they establish themselves, they affirm themselves by not showing up the way that the environment was showing up for them.
That's right. I'm going to buck the system.
Bingo.
Dude, I can so see that. And I've seen it with, the kids that grew up around us as a child myself. And growing up in Northwest Georgia, it was the people that owned the carpet mills. I'm from Dalton, which is carpet capital of the world, and it's the people that owned the carpet mills, and then everybody else. Everybody went to. I mean, this is the way it was. Dude, it didn't matter. Everybody was the same up there, and it was a great place to grow up. Just because you got along with everybody, because everybody was broke, everybody was poor, And so we're all poor, playing ball together. We're all poor, going to church together, whatever. But I can see that. That makes so much sense to me. But then the thing is, how do you fix some of that stuff when it's been instilled as a child? You start to see it, like you said, middle school, high school. I know as a doctor you've probably seen it and done it a million times, and I know every case is unique. I get that. But what's the pathway? Yeah. Let's say somebody's listening now and knows that kid. What can you tell them to say, hey, here's how you put your arm around them?
Yeah. A lot of people reference this ideology of a generational curse. I look at generational curses as generational behavioral patterns that have never been broken. And will you be the one to break it? If you recognize that didn't work for you, what are you going to do different? A lot of times, if you didn't get the loving or the nurturing you needed, then, you can start with the foundation of knowing what not to do in order to learn what to do. And usually that's a start. But it does definitely require someone who's courageous enough to take on that cross to be able to pivot from what everybody else showed me. I'm going to do something different. And it's not an easy thing to be the first to do it, but it's definitely doable. And that's that inspiration, that's that hope, that's that belief that's borrowed that you give so that they can believe in themselves and then hopefully carry the cross in a way that allows them to do great things.
I don't know about you, but I remember telling my son as a kid, and he always played ball and he was pretty good at it. I always made good grades, and we tried to be good examples for him. I remember telling him, I was like, bud, you got 1,000 friends, and that's great. I'm so happy about that. What I want you to do is find the kid that's sitting by himself at the lunch table, him or her. I was like, go sit with them. Yeah. Find out what they're all about. Just ask the questions, because it will. All of a sudden, there will be dialogue, and it might not be easy the first time. You may have to do it a few times because you're earning trust. Back to your point.
That's huge, man. I got to give you a fist bump for that one.
That's the truth.
Because, so often, especially around the middle school or even elementary sometimes, these kids who have been, we know the cover of the book never tells a story, right? We don't know what these kids are going through at home, but if they're sitting by themselves and they're isolated, that's their safe space, right? And then sometimes they may feel like no one knows them, and it's just safe to be over here. And sort of kind of like having a self-fulfilling prophecy to not be known or noticed. But then when someone notices me and it's positive, whoa, that's different. I never had that before.
Almost immediately, too.
Yeah. And it's so gratifying, and it helps that person gain an ounce of confidence. And as long as they, I like to say metaphorically, keep watering that seed, who knows what that person will become.
Absolutely. And there will be days, I remember him telling me, he was, because he listened, and I was proud of that. There'd be days he'd be like, man, kiddo at school, man, he was not in the mood to talk today. And I was like, that's all right. Yeah. So cool, man. Just let that be. Yeah. But then you go back the next day, and look, maybe a couple days in a row, they're like, man, I don't want to talk to you. Ain't got nothing, don't want anything to do with you. And then there will be the day that one day it'll just open up. Bingo. You'll see it happen.
Oh yeah.
You can see it happen if you're willing to put the effort in. And I believe being a faithful guy, I believe that's what we're called to do, and that's. If there's anything that I've instilled in my kid, I hope that's it. Nice. For the rest of his life as we wind down this segment here on Extra 106.3 Justice Unfiltered, talking to Dr. Puranda. Such a great background, such wisdom that comes out of just living. A lot of people, get great educations, and I'm not saying you shouldn't get a great education, but that living experience.
It's the best advice you can get in the world.
No kidding. It's just as
I'll
valuable.
Sign up for that every day.
It's just as valuable as the nicest education you can get in the world. When we come back, I want to talk to you about being able to face, the stress that some people face, that I know it's enormous, and how people hold themselves together during that time period when they have nobody, and then hopefully when they get in touch with you, Dr. Puranda. We'll talk about that next on Justice Unfiltered here on Extra 1063 with Daniel Matalon, CEO of a Second Chance Bail Bonds and a Second Chance Monitoring.
Now back to Justice Unfiltered, presented by a Second Chance Bail Bonds on Extra 1063 FM and the Extra app.
Welcome back to Extra 1063 and Justice Unfiltered with Dr. Puranda and Daniel Matalon of a Second Chance Bail Bonds and a Second Chance Monitoring. My name is Tug Howard. I want to get into, Doctor, before, because I know this segment goes by so quickly, people facing a case and waiting on that outcome, the stress is so heavy. What helps people keep it together? How do you help people keep it together when they're waiting to hear their fate?
Yeah, focus on the controllables. At the end of the day, one of the biggest drivers of stress is expecting or having expectations concerning things you cannot control. That is one of the main ingredients to someone's blood pressure going through the roof. And so it's ultimately all about focusing on the controllables, focusing on what you have the ability to take account for, right? Where recognizing how you played a role, recognizing what you may have done or did not do, and now using this time, this pause, this waiting period to figure out and engineer the new version of you that's better than the old version that created the condition in the first place, whatever it might be. But for the families, it's really all about just being supportive, being a community. But I also like to operate from this ideology as well. If you always tie your child's shoelace, they will never learn how to tie it themselves. If you're always cushioning the fall or preventing them from falling off of a bike, they will never learn balance on their own. And we don't want to soften the fall as someone falls. Actually, those falls teach the child how to balance. And many parents sometimes are helicopters. They want to try to protect their child from the fall, protect them from failing at tying their shoes, so they get down there, they tie for them, and they're doing more harm than good.
Let them fail. They'll learn more from failure than they will anything else on earth. Nothing else. There's nothing else you learn more from.
Big time.
Than getting it wrong.
Yep.
There's something I wrote down. It's almost like the old saying, "Teach a man to fish." Right? if you give him the fish, you feed him once.
That's
if you teach him to fish, he's able to feed himself for a lifetime. I want to go back to something too that stands out to me, and a lot of your examples, when I hear them, they seem to come from a sports background because you were an athlete, which is cool. I think sports in that same way teaches such good lessons, learning to fail, learning to lose. And what do you do better because of that? What did you learn from the failure? And control what you can control. Every coach says that. We don't have no control over all kinds of things in this game. The things we can control, if we do those right, we're sure we're better off. We're more likely to win.
Absolutely. And in addition to everything you just said, that community outside of the home. At least I got my teammates, my coaches. If my parents or my family at home are not the healthiest. It's
so important. And there's so many people out there that I feel like need to hear this. And it's so sad, especially when you see, if you go on social media, which is, I think, the worst thing in the world.
Oh, God, yeah, don't.
I think my wife's the smartest person of anybody in our family because she has zero social media. Even in 2026, she has zero.
She's not corrupt.
No account. Yeah, no accounts. She has no accounts. And I tell her all the time, I was like, you're the smartest of all of us because you don't see this pretend world that exists and people trying to achieve something that's unachievable. And I'll give you an example. Up in Roswell, Georgia, and I don't mean to call these people out, and I won't say the name of the place, but they have a set. And you can go in on that set and be anything you want to be. I'm not kidding. If you want to look like you're flying around on a private jet,
oh wow,
they have it set up so you can look like you're flying around on a private jet, and you can do Instagram reels, and you can do all this stuff. Ain't none of it real.
The illusion.
The illusion that social media is building. And I think people are so chasing that. They're chasing so hard.
Yeah.
It seems like celebrity is like the new accessory. You know what I mean? It's as good as a Rolex. Being famous in some way, a little bit famous, a lot bit famous, doesn't matter. You need your picture taken with whomever, or you need your life to look a certain way, and that is out there. The ability to create that's out there, and it's so damaging. I think it's so damaging.
No, I know exactly.
It's
what
the
you're
worst.
Saying. No,
do you ever have to go through some of that? Like even boiling it down to, hey, social media is not real. I know that seems like so obvious, but it needs to be said.
Here's the thing: the the self-worth piece you spoke about earlier should be established in the impressionable years of one's life, birth to roughly age 16, 18 or so. If you didn't get any self-worth established in your household, then how many likes can I get? How many followers can I get? How closely can I resemble that lifestyle, that look, whatever it might be? Then certainly I should have some self-worth because of my ability to mimic what everybody believes is fashionable or likable. And so it boils down to that. Comparison, what do they say? It's the thief of joy.
Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So social media is definitely a hub for that kind of condition.
Oh, my gosh, yeah, it is. Yeah, I can only imagine how many people come across,
wild.
Come through your office that have that. Like, I'm just trying to achieve that. If I could just get there. And then there changes. Yeah. I got to get to the next. I got to get to the next. And it seems like it's such a mental thing with just that dopamine.
Yeah.
I just get it for this second, and I'm happy again.
Yep.
And then I got to go find it more. I mean, that goes from social media to, I would imagine, drug use.
Yeah, no question. And at the end of the day, all of those things are connected to trying to escape a reality that one is not willing to acknowledge or figure out solutions to address. Right. If your reality currently is a problem, and you're adopting these artificial ways of coping with it.
Great word.
The problem is still there once the artificial high.
No matter what you
sweetener.
no matter what you put in front of it, it still comes back.
Bingo. It's this idea of if I forget about it long enough, it'll go away. Not true. It's still going to be there until you address it.
You have to be satisfied with what's in here.
Bingo. And here's the thing: everything you need is in there, right?
That's exactly right.
You don't have to go find love or find joy. Many people talk about finding. No, you must create it from what's already within. And many people get distracted by social media, which is why they never realize they can create or engineer it from within.
Yeah, you got to love what's in here, because that your word artificial thing that's out there is not ever going to be satisfying. As we wrap up the show, Dr. Puranda, it's such a pleasure. I hope you'll come back, because there's so much that we didn't get to that deserves to be talked about. But I want people to be able to find you on social media and learn about your book, learn about the things that you're able to help people with. Where do people find you?
They can find me on all social media platforms at Dr. Kareem P, DrKareem P. And they can also check out my nonprofit, Achieving Success on Purpose. We're doing some phenomenal work in the North Carolina area, and we would love any kind of donors or people who can sponsor or even support what we're doing in terms of working against youth violence, helping our kids make better decisions so that they don't end up in the prison pipeline.
I hope that happens, man. And I commend you for taking on that task, because that's monumental, man. You turn on the news at night.
Yeah.
I don't even watch the news anymore. I've gotten to the point where I just don't watch the news. I don't.
It impacts you, man, socially and emotionally.
I'm telling you, it will absolutely ruin your day. And that's the last thing I want to have happen when I lay my head down on the pillow, that I just saw something so terrible that's what's going through my head. Man, I want positivity going through my head.
Yeah.
I want to know when I go to bed that the things that I'm thinking about are going to be constructive for me and the people around me and the world around me.
Spot on.
That's why you're doing good work, Dr. Puranda. Thank you, man. God bless you. Continued success. This is Justice Unfiltered on Extra 106.3 with Dr. Puranda today, brought to you by Second Chance Bail Bonds and a Second Chance Monitoring. Daniel Madelon, the CEO over there. My name is Tug Cowart. This is Extra 106.3.
This is an Extra 106.3 podcast. To hear more live and local content like this, tune into 106.3 FM or download the Extra 106.3 app.